Hi everyone, I'm here today to share my story, a story of how I turned my struggles into passion. I believe my story has shaped, molded, and formed who I am today. I'm still trying to let this moment sink in. As Nelson Mandela would remind us, it always seems impossible until it's done. I'm amazed to be standing in front of you all today because 5 years down the memory lane of my life, I was at a boarding school in Bulawayo, going to bed hungry. I never would have thought or even imagined that I'd be here today. See, we all come from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and of course, unique upbringings. And I'm here today as proof that it doesn't really matter where you come from, all that matters is where you're going. So Angela, what exactly do you mean by this? Well, I'm glad you asked. See, in my native language, my name is Velapi, which means, where did you come from? I never really questioned the meaning of my name until I found myself on a plane traveling approximately 12,472 kilometers across the globe to a foreign country you call Canada, not to mention my new home. So as I journeyed across the world, I made it my quest to understand why my parents would name me Velapi, a name that simply begs the question, where did you come from? See, as kids, we all have dreams. And growing up, all I had was my dreams. I had 3 prime dreams. Dream number one was to meet my mom. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe, and at the age of 2, my mom made the difficult decision to move abroad so she can get a better education to support my sister and I. And as a child, I longed to meet my mother one day. And so growing up in a third world country was an experience I will never forget. Yes, I didn't have the privilege to access running water at times, and I used to go to bed with nothing but the uncertainty of tomorrow. However, I am truly grateful for such experiences because they gave birth to my passion for service. So the turning point in my life was when I had the privilege to meet my mom for the very first time. So this is a picture of my sister and my mom when I met her for the first time in Montreal in 2010. And I came to Canada as an economic refugee, and you can imagine the pressure and the anxiety I was feeling. English wasn't my first language, and my ability to speak French was basically non-existent. And through that transition, my biggest challenge was learning who my mom was. Yes, she used to write me letters, cards, and we would occasionally talk on the phone, but I often felt like she was a stranger. It was really different trying to rekindle a relationship after a decade of separation. I often felt very much homesick, I was depressed, I missed my grandparents very much, and I found myself emotionally bankrupt. I soon resorted to committing mental suicide. It was the darkest time of my life. And when I was 14 years old, I wrote an article called Held Hostage in a Black Hole, which was later on published by Inside magazine. You see this hole right there? That's how I felt like. It was really the darkest time of my life. And at that time, all I wanted to do was to move back to Zimbabwe. So poverty seemed more appealing than prosperity. But there was one thing that I really appreciated about being here in Canada. See, back home, it was a taboo to express yourself. And coming here to Canada, I was allowed to cry. So crying is really much what regenerated me. The tears I shed watered me like a dying plant. I was able to heal through the process of crying. I came to learn that crying is not a sign or an act of weakness, but it is merely an act of strength. These are my struggles. I came to understand through that process that My struggles are precious gems, and they fuel my pursuit of service. So you might be sitting here today and you have dreams, but there seems to be circumstances that are blocking you from achieving these dreams. So I want to urge you today to unleash your passions and not let circumstances determine your fate. And once I began to look at my struggles as precious gems, I was able to achieve my third dream, which was to help people. So I recently founded a nonprofit initiative called Project AFRI, which stands for Angels for Relief Initiative. And so when I moved to Canada and acquired the resources to help people, I particularly chose to help orphans, because growing up with the absence of my biological parents, whenever my peers and friends would talk about their parents, I had nothing. All I had was a passport-sized picture of my mom. And so I chose to help orphans because I know what it feels like to be one. And so through creating this initiative, I was able to help over 60 orphans last December when I took a trip back home to Zimbabwe to give school supplies to these orphans. And so I believe AFRI can still continue to provide educational doors for the less fortunate. I've also had the privilege to work with several other nonprofit initiatives, to name a few. Unified for Change. Last November, we hosted a banquet to help homeless people in Surrey. And I've also had the privilege to work with Youth Achieving Success, and I was able to help students figure out what careers they want to do in the future by reaching out to different industry professionals who were able to equip all our attendees. Okay, and lastly, I'd like to talk about a trip that set a milestone in my life. In 2014, I got involved in a school club called Panorama Reach Global Initiative. And this club, we were able to fundraise money in order to go to Guatemala with one goal: to help build a home for a poor family. And we were assigned a construction project, and this is my team and I on the building site. And so I'm reminded of a conversation I had with my uncle a few weeks back. He was asking me, Angela, so what do you want to do in the future? And I remember telling him, Uncle, I want to help people. That's my passion. I want to be one day the Secretary General of the United Nations. And I remember my uncle saying, that's it? That's all you got? And so I'd just like to end off with this quote: when I look into the future, it's so bright, it burns my eyes. And so to conclude my story, I want to urge you to use your struggles to your advantage. The struggle doesn't become real until you use it to your advantage. So find the beauty in your challenges. And so I came to understand why my parents named me Villapi. It is simply to remind me that I am from my struggles, and my name is a reminder of the beauty that comes with struggles. I am who I am today thanks to my struggles. Thank you.